It began with a whisper, a tremor on the ticker tape, a subtle vibration in the heart of the financial district. The machines, once symbols of progress and prosperity, now chattered with an ominous urgency. A nervous glance across the New York Stock Exchange. A sea of faces, usually brimming with confidence, now etched with concern. The air crackled with unspoken anxieties as seasoned traders sensed the shift in the market's mood. For most Americans, that October day in 1929 was just another Tuesday. Life continued as normal, oblivious to the impending economic earthquake. Children played in the streets, families went about their daily routines, unaware of the storm brewing on Wall Street. But for those watching the numbers, a storm was gathering. The relentless cascade of falling stock prices painted a grim picture, a harbinger of the financial devastation to come. Each tick lower on the board represented lost fortunes and shattered dreams. Charles M. Schwab, titan of industry, tried to calm the waters. A respected voice in the business world, he attempted to reassure investors and the public, hoping to stem the tide of panic. He said things were fundamentally sound, a phrase that would soon ring hollow in the ears of millions who lost everything. His words, meant to inspire confidence, were ultimately drowned out by the deafening roar of the market's collapse. But the whispers grew into a roar, a panic. The initial unease transformed into a full-blown frenzy as investors scrambled to salvage what they could. The streets of Wall Street became a chaotic scene of desperation and despair. The sound of a world falling apart, one share, $1, one dream at a time. Each share, each dollar, represented a piece of someone's future, now vanishing into thin air. The weight of lost hopes and shattered aspirations hung heavy in the air. In Chicago, Eleanor heard the news on the radio. The voices of the announcers, usually filled with optimism, now carried a somber tone, relaying the grim details of the market's collapse. Her husband, a bank worker, came home pale and silent, staring at his hands. The weight of the day's events pressed down on him, the fear of the unknown etched on his face. He knew that the stability of his job and their livelihood was now in jeopardy. She didn't understand Black Tuesday, but she understood the fear in his eyes, a fear of an empty future. The unspoken anxieties filled their home, casting a shadow over their dreams and aspirations. In Iowa, Farmer John mended a fence, thinking the crash was a distant problem for rich men. He believed that his rural life, far removed from the hustle and bustle of Wall Street, would shield him from the economic turmoil. He couldn't know that soon, the chaos would reach his fields. The repercussions of the crash would ripple outwards, impacting every corner of the nation, including the heartland of America. The invisible threads of the economy connected his small farm to Wall Street. The intricate web of finance and commerce linked the fate of a humble farmer to the fortunes of powerful investors. The value of his land and labor was about to plummet. The economic downturn would decimate farm prices, leaving many farmers struggling to survive. The crash was more than financial. It was psychological. It shattered the illusion of endless prosperity and exposed the fragility of the American dream, a crack in American optimism. The unwavering belief in progress and opportunity was shaken to its core, leaving a sense of uncertainty and disillusionment in its wake. Suddenly, the rules had changed. The familiar landscape of the economic world had been irrevocably altered, leaving many feeling lost and disoriented. The future was no longer a promise. It was a threat. The sense of security and stability had vanished, replaced by a looming sense of dread and apprehension. For millions, the Great Depression began not with a lost job, but with a cold feeling of uncertainty, a creeping sense of unease that gnawed at their peace of mind, casting a shadow over their daily lives. That first quiet moment when they looked at their families and wondered if any of it was safe. The unspoken question hung in the air. Could they protect their loved ones from the coming storm? The world they knew was beginning to fade. The vibrant energy and optimism of the roaring 20s were slowly being replaced by a sense of gloom and foreboding. To truly understand the magnitude of the fall, you must first understand the dizzying heights of the climb, the exuberance, the optimism, the seemingly limitless potential that defined an era. The 1920s, jazz, a new and vibrant sound echoing through the nation, flappers, daring women who challenged conventions and embraced newfound freedoms and endless possibility. The Roaring Twenties, a time of unprecedented social and economic change. America was high on its own success, riding a wave of post-war confidence and industrial might. New technologies, cars, symbols of personal freedom and mass production, radios, connecting families, and spreading news and entertainment across the nation. Refrigerators transformed daily life, promising convenience and a higher standard of living. Factories churned out goods at an astonishing rate. And on Wall Street, fueled by speculation and optimism, the sky seemed the limit. Ordinary people, caught up in the frenzy, borrowed money to buy stocks, eager to get rich quick. They were playing a dangerous game they didn't understand, fueled by hype and a collective belief in endless growth. The economy, on the surface, looked undeniably strong, a picture of booming prosperity. But underneath the glittering facade, there were deep and troubling weaknesses, cracks in the foundation that threatened to bring it all crashing down. Wealth was unevenly distributed, concentrated in the hands of a few. Corporate profits soared to unprecedented levels, but workers' wages barely budged, creating a growing disparity. Farmers, the backbone of the nation, struggled with falling prices and rising debt, facing economic ruin. The banking system, built on shaky foundations, was a house of cards, vulnerable to collapse. Industries produced more goods than people could afford to buy, leading to a glut of unsold inventory. The nation danced on the edge of a cliff, blinded by prosperity and unwilling to see the dangers ahead. The stock market became a national obsession, a seemingly foolproof one-way ticket to wealth and social status. Stories of instant millionaires filled the news, fueling the speculative frenzy and enticing more people to jump in. Experts, often blinded by their own biases, declared a new era of permanent prosperity, dismissing any concerns. Easy credit, readily available to almost anyone, fueled a speculative bubble of unprecedented proportions. Banks lent recklessly, often without proper due diligence, creating a tangled web of unsustainable debt. No one wanted the party to end. To question the boom, to express doubt, was considered un-American, even unpatriotic. The warning signs were there, visible to those who dared to look, but few saw them or chose to ignore them. When the crash finally came, it was more than just an economic event. It was a moral reckoning, a shattering of illusions. The sudden and devastating collapse exposed the fragile foundations of the decade's supposed prosperity, revealing the rot beneath the surface. The silence after the Roaring '20s was the sound of a nation waking up to a harsh new reality, a world transformed by economic devastation. The party was over, the bill was coming due, and the hangover would last for years. The crash on Wall Street wasn't just a financial hiccup. It was a stone thrown into a pond, an event that would irrevocably alter the course of American history. The ripples spread outward, slowly at first, almost imperceptibly, then with devastating speed engulfing everything in their path. The initial shock gave way to a creeping dread as the crisis deepened. Banks were the first to fall, the cornerstones of the economy crumbling under the weight of panic and bad investments. Panicked investors defaulted on loans, desperately trying to salvage what little they had left as the market spiraled downwards. Banks failed one after another, and savings vanished overnight, wiping out entire life fortunes in a single devastating blow. George Mills from Indiana remembered the day his bank closed, a day etched forever in his memory and the memories of countless others. "You saw your life savings go down the drain," a sentiment echoed across the nation. With banks failing and trust eroded, credit dried up, strangling the flow of money that kept the economy alive. Factories couldn't pay workers or buy materials, grinding production to a halt. The gears of industry seized, leaving a trail of unemployment and despair. Layoffs began, first a few, a trickle of job losses that quickly turned into a flood. Then hundreds, then thousands, as the unemployment rate soared to unprecedented levels. Unemployment lines snaked around city blocks, a stark testament to the scale of the crisis. Filled with men who had always provided for their families, the backbone of the American workforce. Now they had nothing, their pockets empty, their futures uncertain. The loss of a job was a blow to identity and self-worth, stripping men of their dignity and purpose. The unraveling spread from cities to towns, leaving a trail of broken dreams and shuttered businesses, factories to farms, devastating rural communities already struggling with drought and hardship. As people lost jobs, they stopped buying, causing more businesses to fail, accelerating the downward spiral. It was a vicious spiral, a self-perpetuating cycle of economic decline. Families were evicted from their homes, their belongings piled on sidewalks, a public display of their misfortune. Makeshift shelters, Hoovervilles, sprang up in vacant lots. grim reminders of the government's failure to provide relief. The American dream, once a beacon of hope, became a nightmare for millions. Every day was a battle for survival, a desperate search for food and shelter. Men, unable to provide for their families, often left, driven by shame and desperation. Joining a vast army of homeless riding the rails in search of work, a glimmer of hope in a sea of despair. The fabric of society was coming apart at the seams, threatening to unravel the very foundations of the nation. As if economic collapse wasn't enough, nature turned against the people. On the Great Plains, years of poor farming stripped the land. When drought struck, the topsoil blew away. The Dust Bowl was born. Black blizzards that blotted out the sun, dust seeping into food, water, lungs. Children and the elderly developed dust pneumonia. Many died. The land that once promised abundance now offered only suffocation. Farmers' crops and livestock were buried and choked. Their land was ruined. They packed what little they had and headed west, chasing rumors of work in California. They became known as Okies, refugees in their own country. John Steinbeck chronicled their journey, capturing both despair and resilience. They faced hostility and exploitation, but their story became a symbol of the nation's suffering. The Great Depression was not just economic. It was a human tragedy, written in dust. For children, the Great Depression stole childhood itself. They learned the vocabulary of poverty early: eviction, relief, foreclosure. Many suffered hunger and lacked medical care. Play was a luxury. Chores and scavenging became daily life. School was often a place of shame. Worn-out clothes, empty stomachs. Many dropped out to help their families. Yet, even in darkness, children found ways to be children. Games with found objects, shared stories, rare moments of joy. The radio brought families together, offering escape and unity. The Depression shaped this generation. Frugal, resilient, and deeply connected to family and community. Their voices are a testament to the enduring strength of the human spirit. With little government help, Americans relied on each other. The Depression brought out the best in many. Neighbors shared what little they had. Churches and charities ran soup kitchens and bread lines, offering food and dignity. Volunteers gave more than soup. They gave recognition of shared humanity. Communities pooled resources, bartered skills, and formed cooperatives. "I am my brother's keeper" became a practical truth. This collective spirit was a powerful antidote to despair. The story of the Great Depression is not just hardship. It's about how ordinary people, through countless small acts of grace, helped each other weather the storm. The highway, Route 66, became a symbol of the era, a river of misery flowing west. Dust Bowl families, the Okies, piled their belongings and headed for California. The journey was harsh. Cars broke down, money ran out, and tent cities lined the road. In California, they faced suspicion, exploitation, and poverty. Yet in hardship, migrant communities found strength, gathering around campfires, sharing food, stories, and music. Their journey exposed deep divisions in America, but also incredible endurance. They were pioneers of survival, seeking not new lands but a place to start over. Survival during the Depression was an art form. Ingenuity, thrift, and making do. Use it up, wear it out, make it do or do without became the mantra. Nothing was wasted. Everything was repurposed. Mothers stretched meals, people repaired shoes and tires, and men kept busy with small projects. Thrift was about control in a world gone out of control. Communal pleasures replaced expensive ones. Potlucks, cards, dances, and radio. The Depression taught the difference between want and need and the value of resilience and community. The Great Depression didn't end overnight. It was a slow climb out of darkness. Franklin D. Roosevelt's election marked a turning point. His New Deal offered hope and action. Programs like the CCC and WPA put millions to work, transforming the country. For the first time, a government safety net, Social Security unemployment insurance, was created. Recovery was slow. True rebound came with World War II, but the seeds of a new dawn were planted. America emerged changed, wiser, more compassionate, and aware of the power of collective action. The legacy is complex, suffering and loss, but also strength and resilience. The story of the Depression is about ordinary people, fears, struggles, hopes. In our darkest hours, we find strength in each other. The echoes of those 10 minutes in 1929 remind us of our fragility and our enduring capacity to rebuild and hope.